All right, I got another one for you guys. Going to be talking a little bit about how we can save gaming. So, I've been thinking a lot about these terrible AAA releases we've been seeing over the past few years, the wokeification of games, the preaching from their soapboxes down to us plebs from these AAA studios and publishers, and just trying to think about how we can get back to a state where we're getting good games that we enjoy playing that aren't going to preach to us about how terrible we are as people. I mean, the most important thing I think is you got to vote with your dollar. That is by and large the most important aspect of this whole thing. And I got receipts to prove it. I got a couple of examples here that we're going to go into, and also some thoughts about how you can go about doing that. So let's just jump into the examples right here. So the first one is my favorite example, Hogwarts Legacy. Massive success. And you can see this couple of month window here that I got outlined for the player counts. Peak of 879,000, and it dropped down to about 54,000 at its low point, which is not too terribly bad. 50,000 players playing your game a couple of months into it as a single player RPG, sword and sorcery type of game. That's not half bad, honestly. And, also you got to factor in console in that equation as well, because this is just Steam numbers, but you can see the owner estimations are 3.95 million to 15.84 million. Whereas compared to the game we're going to compare it against, Forspoken, that is a dramatic difference. So Forspoken launched 12,000 concurrent players, and during that same couple of month time frame, it dropped down to 504, and you can see 997,000 to 222,000 estimated owners. So a much less popular game compared to Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy, obviously, it was panned by the great and the good, and loved by the pleb gamers like us, and it shows in the numbers. It shows in the sales. And Forspoken, it was like hyped up beyond belief, and it was like this is going to be this great new RPG from Square Enix, and it's going to be awesome. And yeah, people weren't buying it, and obviously people didn't buy it. See it, so you see the numbers, and that is just a prime example of voting with your dollar. Forspoken, as far as the great and the good are concerned, as far as the gaming media and the studios and all those wonderful people at the top that are quote unquote in power, this was supposed to be the great success of that year, not Hogwarts Legacy, and it definitely was the opposite there. So that's the first example. The next example is going to be Street Fighter 6, and you can see on release 70,000 concurrent players for a console-oriented game on Steam. That's not half bad. And then you got a few months of time here, almost a year, and you can see that it got down to about 23,000, 21,000. Yeah, 20,000. Oh, and into the 1918s. But compared to Mortal Kombat 1, that is pretty darn good, because their peak was 38,000. Their low point is 1,300 players. So you can see the differentiation there between Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. And obviously Mortal Kombat got panned by a lot of us due to the fact that they really, really uglified their female characters compared to previous iterations of Mortal Kombat. Not to mention the story just didn't jive, and the whole, little good boy looking Raiden thing, that really bothered me. Raiden's my favorite character, but there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on in this game, and it just didn't jive with people as a Mortal Kombat game, as a good continuation of that story. Whereas Street Fighter 6 was very authentically Street Fighter. It was very well received. There was a little criticism about the DLCs, but that's been going on for a while. And it's the same in Mortal Kombat, but yeah, overall you've got consistent player counts across the board, and it's been a very well received game. So again, voting with your dollar, it made a difference. I mean, people took notice of the poor sales of Mortal Kombat 1 compared to Street Fighter 6. Darn well that the studios are paying attention to these kind of things. So next up is going to be Helldivers 2 versus Redfall. So again, like a multiplayer oriented shooter type title. So Helldivers, I mean, they're not exactly the same kind of game, not like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, but it's a pretty close comparison. And you can see at launch 64,000, it got up to a peak of like almost 500,000 concurrent players. and it's been going pretty good since launch. Pretty consistent player counts. It is starting to drop off a little bit, but not nearly as bad as you would have thought for a quote unquote indie title, which is it's not an indie title. It's solidly AAA or a solidly AA at this point. Helldivers 1, I could call that an indie, but Helldivers 2, they're officially a AA studio at this point in my book. But you can see concurrent player or owners, estimated owners 4.79 million versus 30 million. And then if you go over to Redfall, you can see quite the opposite graph. You start at 6,100 concurrent players, and it just drops off to basically zero. I mean, you're talking in the 50s here. Yeah, that's a bad 60s. All right, 60s, 56. And then the owner estimations 41,000 to 471,000 compared to the 4.79 to 30 million. So Redfall, again, according to the great and good, this was supposed to be the game. It was super hyped. It was out there everywhere. Everyone saw it. It was all over the place. And honestly, I mean, even I was fooled. I thought this was going to be a good game. And then when it came out, it was a total stinker. And that is where you see these player counts. So they paid the price. And I'm wondering if Steam Spy just isn't picking up on the refunds, whereas these others might have been, because 471,000 seems like an awfully big number for 6,100 concurrent players at launch. So I'm thinking a lot of those were returns, which is a good tactic. I mean, and we're going to get into that in a minute as well. But I think a lot of people pre-ordered this and then refunded it just because it was a terrible game and nobody was playing it, and it was just not up to par. So Helldivers versus Redfall, you can see, I mean, studios are paying attention to this too. Publishers are paying attention to this, and at the end of the day, voting with your dollar pays off. And again, there's a lot of skepticism out there as to whether this actually works, but you can see that it works. It is working, and even I've said, like, there's a lot of ESG investment about pushing the message, but that has a limited lifetime in my book. I don't think it's going to change tomorrow, but I don't think the ESG investment thing to prop these companies up, I don't think that's going to last. Because if you're in the business of making games and you're not selling any of your games, nobody's going to want to invest in you, whether they're doing it to push their message or what, because nobody's going to see their message because nobody's playing your games. So I think that has a limited lifetime, and I think getting into the habit of voting with your dollar, of saying you have to prove to me that your game is actually worth playing before I invest time and money into it, I think that's an important thing to go forward with. So the more of us do that, the better off we're going to be in the long term. Now, how do you actually do that? How do you actually know whether a game is going to be worth playing or not? That is a tough question to answer, and there's a lot of thoughts I have on that. But I think the big ones that I'm going to put out here are things that at least you can do today going forward. So the first up is Steam Curators. So obviously the biggest one out there these days that everybody's talking about, Sweet Baby Ink Detected. This is simply a list of any title that has been confirmed to have Sweet Baby involved in the development of it. You can see there's some real rough titles out here, like Gotham Knights. So yeah, there's some clear patterns emerging as to which consultants are not good to have involved in your games. So this is clearly one of them. And there's other curators out there too. I suggest you don't just go based on Sweet Baby Ink Detected. Find curators you like, find curators you trust, and pay attention to what they have to say about these games. Pay attention to what's going on with those games in development too, if you can. But again, I mean, this is a lot of post-release information more than anything as far as curators are concerned. Also, the next thing is also after release, which is paying attention to reviews. Now you can see here, this is one of the not recommended by Sweet Baby Ink, Gotham Knights. But you can go down to the reviews here, and what I always tend to do is make sure the playtime is selected at over 10 hours, so that you get players that have invested at least 10 hours into the game, so they have a good idea of how that game plays. and also select Steam purchasers instead of all, just to make sure that these are verified Steam purchases. And that will tell you that it's not being, it's harder to review bomb verified Steam purchases than just reviews overall, simply because you have to buy the game in order to get to that point. And if you've invested over 10 hours into the game, again, not a bad thing. And you can tweak these to your liking, but that's usually what I always do is select those two just to make sure. And you can just read through the reviews and you can see what people are saying. I stayed for the story, gameplay, and traversal in this game is trash. It made me want to finish the story so quickly so I can move on to other games, get it on sale. So there's good and bad in here, and there's a lot of bad, but there's also a lot of good reviews. Simply because a lot of people don't do positively review things, and some of that may very well be review bombing, even with verified Steam purchases. But a 77% positive, I would say, is not a very good indicator that this is a fun game, simply because usually you want to look for something that's in the high 80s to 90s of positive reviews for people that have played it over 10 hours, simply because they've invested that amount of time. If you're talking nearly a quarter of the people that have spent more than 10 hours in this game don't like it, that is a very bad sign. And obviously, if you take this off, that 77% goes down to 70, so it just keeps dropping the further down you go. But that's a good indicator of the game. And again, read these reviews, because reading what people have to say about it will give you more of an impression of how the game plays than anything else. So aggregate data is great, but actually reading into these things makes a big difference too. And to that effect, find some streamers that you trust that are playing these games, and see what they say, see how their experience is, watch the gameplay, and that makes a big difference too as to whether you're impressed or not with the title. But again, all of these are after release type strategies, and the vast majority of this is going to be post-release strategies. However, there is one positive thing about that, which is that you can just not buy the game at release. You cannot pre-order the game, and I suggest you don't. I would say wait at least a week after launch to see what the world is saying about it, see what it looks like. And to that end, the other thing I think we need to really bring back is demos, and that's the last thing I want to point out. Steam does, and again, these are also very Steam-oriented. I'm kind of a PC gamer, obviously, but you can check. I know they don't have a lot of curation mechanics in PlayStation or Xbox, or Switch for that matter, on consoles. But if the game is cross-platform, you can go on Steam and check the curator lists. Go check out the reviews, because at least it'll give you an idea. And the thing I don't suggest is go to the bought-off game media, because they're going to review positively anything that they get paid to do, and that's just the sad reality of it. They're biased beyond belief, and it shows in their reviews, it shows in their coverage. So we're kind of on our own, and that's kind of what I'm trying to instill in you guys, is the ability to kind of dig through these things. And again, I think demos are important, because it gives you an idea of the game. It gives you that taste of the game, of how it's going to play, of what it's going to be like. And Steam has been doing a great job of this, and I think consoles need to jump on that train too. I think that now that consoles are basically medialess at this point. I mean, you can still buy discs and all, but really it's an online store that you download and install games for the console now too. There's no reason why those can't support demos. There's no reason why we can't have demos across the board, console, PC, even mobile. So getting that out there would be great. And Steam has done a great job of it. I mean, they have Next Fest, which is something they do on a periodic basis, where they kind of showcase a bunch of games that have demos. So you can go out there and play them and be a part of the Next Fest and check some stuff out. And that's been hugely successful at getting more demos out there. But then you can just do a search like this. And I'm going to include a link to this in the description so that you guys can kind of bookmark it and go back and refer to it. But this is basically all the demos on Steam, ordered by release date. I'm actually going to default it to relevance on the link, but you can switch that to release date or by name or what have you. Even Steam Deck compatibility review date. So I mean, if you're on Steam Deck, you can do that. You can do user reviews. There's a lot of options here. So the other thing you can do is kind of check off these tags. So if you want something like an indie adventure game, you can indie and adventure, and then you get all the demos for indie adventure games, and you can go through these. And obviously check the reviews. See, mixed, positive, very positive, and positive 100% of the 14 user reviews. So there are options out there for you guys. And I think demos are going to be a big part of this going forward because, like I said, it gives you a taste of the game. So you can just pick any random game in here. So let's just take this top one. And then you can just download the demo. If you like it, you buy it, $10. So there you go. Lily looking through. I mean, it's probably not the kind of game I would play, but it looks interesting enough. Art style is interesting. Might not be your cup of tea, but like I said, there's a ton of demos out here, and there's something for everybody for sure, without a doubt. And so that's pretty much what I got for you guys. I don't know if I think of anything else that will help in this initiative to try and get these games to be fun again. I'll do another video on this and just keep going down the road. But, take it to mind. I mean, vote with your dollar, find good games to play, tell your friends, talk about it. And I think that's all we can do. So that's all I got for you guys. Hope you enjoy the vid. If you like these kind of videos, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you guys later.